You did everything right. You ticked every single box. Good grades, the right career, the perfect relationship. You built the exact life everyone promised would make you happy. We all tend to assume that if we just climb higher, earn more, and keep proving ourselves, the big questions about our lives will just, sort of, go away. But then why do you wake up in the morning with that quiet, aching feeling that something is profoundly missing? You followed the entire playbook, and it led you to a beautiful but totally empty room. And now, there's a single burning question that threatens to unravel everything. Who am I? Really, inside all of this? If you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. In fact, this feeling, this crisis, might be the most important thing that has ever happened to you. This experience has a name. It's called the Aravir. Still a fallacy. It's the surprisingly common feeling of emptiness that hits right after a major accomplishment. It's that gap between the happiness you were promised and the hollow reality you found instead. Section 1. The beautiful empty room. Let's talk about that room for a second. It's decorated with all your achievements. Your degrees are hanging on the walls like priceless art. Your job title is a gleaming centerpiece on the coffee table. The keys to your dream life are all sitting neatly by the door. From the outside, anyone peering in would see a picture of total success. But you're on the inside, and you know the truth, don't you? The room is silent. The trophies don't talk back. The accolades feel like they belong to a stranger. It's a room full of mirrors. But when you look, you don't see yourself. You just see a reflection of what you've done. This isn't just a flowery metaphor. It's a very real psychological trap. Many of us tie our entire sense of self-worth to external validation, the approval of others, the next promotion, or even the number of likes on a social media post. This habit of outsourcing your self-esteem makes your sense of self incredibly fragile and inconsistent. If your confidence is totally dependent on someone else's opinion or your latest win, it's conditional. You start to believe that you are your job title. You are your salary. You are simply the sum of your visible, measurable successes. You feel like you're wearing someone else's skin. But here's the problem with a life built on that foundation. It's an endless, unwinnable race. Your brain releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical, in anticipation of a reward, not necessarily from the reward itself. When you finally hit that goal, you get a short-lived buzz, but your brain quickly adapts. This is a process called hedonic adaptation, where what once felt like a massive victory soon becomes the new normal. The thrill vanishes, leaving you feeling empty and needing an even bigger goal to chase that high again. This cycle of huge expectations followed by disillusionment can lead to burnout, anxiety, and a profound sense of emptiness. You're left standing alone in your beautiful room, surrounded by all the proof that you should be happy, yet feeling completely worthless. Section 2. The burning question. So, what is actually going on here? That feeling of being a stranger in your own life is your consciousness trying to send you a wake-up call. For centuries, philosophers have wrestled with what they call the hard problem of consciousness, the question of why? We have a subjective first-person experience at all. Why do we feel the color red or the sting of disappointment instead of just processing data like a computer? Science can explain the how, the neural pathways and chemical reactions, but it still can't quite nail the why of your personal experience. And this is why feeling matters just as much as doing. Your consciousness isn't just a passive camera recording your life. Modern neuroscience suggests that the brain is essentially a prediction machine. It's constantly building models of the world, making predictions about what to expect next. When reality matches those predictions, everything feels smooth. But when there's a mismatch, when you achieve the goal that you predicted would bring you lasting happiness and it falls flat, your brain fires off a massive error signal. That hollow feeling in your chest? That's a prediction error. It's your brain screaming that the model you're using for happiness is broken. The life you built on the formula achievement equals happiness has failed the reality check. And this is where that burning question ignites. If I am not my achievements, then who the hell am I? This question is terrifying because it yanks the rug out from under your entire identity. You've spent your life creating a story about yourself, what psychologists call a narrative identity. A narrative identity is the evolving story you tell yourself that answers the big questions. Who am I? How did I get here? Where am I going? For many high achievers, that story is a simple, straight line. I work hard, I achieve, therefore I am valuable. When that plot leads to an empty room, the whole story falls apart. It just doesn't make sense anymore. And when you don't have a story, you feel completely lost. Section 3. The Flawed Search. When your story shatters, the first instinct is to find a new one, and fast. That emptiness is terrifying, so we scramble to fill it, which usually sends us down one of two equally flawed paths. The first path is immerse. More money, more achievements, a fancier title. You tell yourself, okay, the last goal didn't work, but the next one will. That's the one that will finally make me happy. You double down on the exact strategy that made you feel empty, convinced that a higher peak will finally offer the view you were promised. This is the arrival fallacy on a hamster wheel, a cycle of chasing the next win only to feel the same letdown, over and over again. The second path is different. You figure the identity you built was just the wrong one, so you decide to try on a new one. The lawyer quits to become a baker. The banker moves to a farm to raise goats. You swap your career, your city, your entire life, hoping to find a prepackaged identity that fits better. And sometimes this works. But more often than not, it's just trading one set of external labels for another. You're still defining yourself by what you do, a baker, a farmer, instead of by who you are. You've just redecorated the empty room, but you haven't dealt with the emptiness itself. Both of these paths are dead ends because they're based on the same lie. They assume your identity is something you find or achieve out there in the world. They treat the self as a destination you arrive at, not a process you live. They are still looking for a what to define the who. If any of this is hitting home for you, if you felt that chasm between outer success and inner emptiness, take a second to hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep digging into these questions together, moving past the easy answers to find something real. Section 4. The redefinition of self. This brings us to the big question. If the answer isn't more or different, then what is it? The solution isn't about control, it's about redefinition. The way out of the empty room isn't to build a better one, it's to realize that you are not the room. Psychologically, this is about shifting from an outcome-based identity to a values-based one. An outcome-based identity is all about what you get. The promotion, the A+, the win. It's fragile and external. A values-based identity, on the other hand, is rooted in who you want to be. A person who is compassionate or courageous or honest. Your core values are the principles that act as your internal compass, guiding your choices. Tying your identity to outcomes is a recipe for suffering, while tying it to your values and your process builds resilience. Think of it like this. An outcome-based identity says, I'll feel like a success when I win the marathon. A values-based identity says, I am the kind of person who is disciplined and resilient, so I will train for a marathon to express that. See the difference? In the first scenario, your self-worth is on hold until you cross that finish line. And what happens after? The feeling fades. In the second, every single time you train, you are living your identity. Every small choice, waking up early, pushing through a tough mile, becomes an affirmation of who you are. The action is no longer just a means to an end, it's an expression of your very being. This shift is the secret to lasting fulfillment because it moves the source of your self-worth from the external and uncontrollable to the internal and controllable. You can't control if you get the promotion, but you can control if you act with integrity. You can't control if your project is a hit, but you can control whether you show up with discipline and creativity every day. Your identity is no longer a fragile trophy you have to win, but a living process you get to embody, moment by moment. Section 5. Rebuilding your narrative. So, how do you actually make this shift? It starts by rebuilding your narrative identity, but this time, you build it around your values, not your achievements. It's time to take back the pen and become the author of your own story again. Here are 3 ways to start. First, notice the narrator. Your mind is a 24/7 storytelling machine. For a few minutes each day, just pause and eavesdrop on that voice in your head. What's it saying? Is it an inner critic, obsessing over flaws? Is it an anxious planner, terrified of the next outcome? You don't have to judge it or fix it, just notice it. Mindfulness studies show this simple act creates distance, helping you realize you are not the voice, you are the one hearing the voice. Second, name the process. Start changing the language you use to describe your life. Instead of defining yourself by wins and losses, define yourself by your process and values. This is a cognitive reframing technique. So, I failed becomes, this attempt taught me something. I am a failure becomes, I am a person who is learning resilience. Instead of, I want to be a writer, try this. I am a person who values creativity, so I am going to write for 30 minutes today. This tiny linguistic shift reframes your actions as expressions of who you are, not desperate bids to prove you're worthy. Third, root in purpose. The most powerful way to build a values-based identity is to connect it to something bigger than yourself. Ask yourself, what meaning do I want to create? This isn't about some single grand purpose. It's about clarifying your values and figuring out how you can contribute. If you value compassion, how can you express that with your family or at work? If you value knowledge, how can you share what you've learned? Psychologists call this generativity, finding meaning by passing on what you know. It shifts your entire focus from what can I get to what can I give? That feeling of emptiness after success isn't a sign that you're broken. It's a call to adventure. It's an invitation to stop building your life from a script someone else handed you and to finally start writing your own. For so long, you've been trying to answer the question, who am I? By looking for your reflection in the mirror of your achievements. But you are not the reflection. You are not the titles, the trophies, or the applause. You are not even the story you've been telling yourself. You are the awareness that remains when all of that falls away. You are the consciousness that notices, the author that chooses, and the presence that lives. The journey inward isn't about finding a new, better identity. It's about realizing you are the space where all identities can come and go. And from that place of freedom, you finally get to choose what values you want to bring to life. So, I'll leave you with this. What story will you choose to write now?